Hi, and welcome to the Virgin River Cafe Rewatch podcast. Good morning, Gigi.
Good morning, Tracy. How are you today?
Better. Was a little under the weather, but now I'm good. So now we can
Glad to
get
hear that.
back at it. This is halfway through the season. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh,
Yes, we are almost there.
almost there. So today I decided to go something a little generically old school for my coffee beverage today. I'm having a caramel
Mm,
iced coffee. Just something
very
simple.
nice.
I was kind of like, I have had pumpkin like nearly every day, and I needed a little break. I just
Well,
needed a
that
break.
sounds good. That sounds good. I was in the area, and so I got a Vietnamese coffee,
Oh,
iced coffee.
Vietnamese? Nice.
Yes. So we're I'm cold and strong today.
Okay. You're ready. That is going to
I am
pump you
ready.
up.
It is most definitely going to pump me up.
Very cool. Okay. All right. Well, then let's get started.
Season 2, Episode 5, Can't Let Go.
The description says Jack is haunted by war memories during a reunion with his Marine buddies. Mel clashes with her sister in law. Oh my.
Mm,
Now, the sister
yeah,
in law, she's,
she's a piece of work.
yep, yep.
Just leave it at
She,
that.
yeah.
Showed up unexpectedly from when we
Mm
last saw,
hmm. Yep.
and so now she is here.
She is there. Now, we always start off with a scenery shot, but the scenery, they decide to take in the scenery because Mel now is used to being in this scenery and enjoys it. She's sort of an outdoorsy kind of girl. So she drags her, which it really does look like she's dragging her sister in law out to run because, I mean, Mel runs, the sister in law runs. She said she works out. So the two of them are running along this path, and the sister in law looks like let's just say a water break wouldn't be enough. She's hunched over. She's like heavy breathing. She is just having a day. And of course, Mel's, she's going to go up to her. She's a nurse, she's looking like she's in distress. She's going to go up to her. Hey, are you okay? And poor Stacy is breathing heavy and she's freaked out. Okay. Um, I'm sorry. Freaked out, really? Like,
Well, she's like, I run on the treadmill,
okay,
and
but
I
freaked
and
out.
yeah,
It's a little dramatic, don't you think? And she's like, "Why are you freaked out?" And she's like, "Yeah, but I run in a climate controlled gym with like fresh air that's being circulated all around, and all of this outdoor air is making me lightheaded." It's like, what? So Mel's just like, "Take some deep breaths. You're gonna be fine." And her comment cracks me
I
up.
don't, yeah, I don't know how you can stand to live in the middle of nowhere. It's
She's
like,
like,
what do you mean nowhere? She
she's
has
like, it's
people
called
around her.
nature. Like, it's not nowhere. Like, she's like, you sound like my brother. It's like, okay, we can tell that this sibling thing,
Hmm.
that, I don't think that right. I mean, it was really hard to tell what kind of a person Mark was from the flashbacks. I
Hmm.
mean, seemed like a really good doctor, seemed like a really nice guy. I mean, we
Hmm.
know how Mel is. See that she would
Imagine,
attract
yeah,
a
track
person
somebody
who's got a
like
good
herself.
heart, who's all of that, which is not Stacy. I mean, when they say, siblings are different, yeah,
Oh,
I would say that this is one of those instances that would be very, very
well,
true.
well, you and I can relate to that in more ways
Oh,
than one.
yeah, you have
You
several
know,
siblings. I only have one, and we're very different. We have different interests. We do different things. We live on different sides of the country. I mean, there's a lot of differences. Yeah, we have things in common besides,
mm,
hereditary. But it's just funny how he seems like he's very different. I mean, a lot of the things that Mel's mentioning, that Stacy's like, oh, Mark always trying to get me to go hiking, in quotes, with him. It's like, he's just wanted like maybe to take a walk outside, and Stacy would be like,
right?
no, that's nature. I don't want to touch that. I just think it's funny. She's so dramatic.
I know.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
she's definitely she's definitely an LA girl.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
So Mel's like, yeah, well, that's why I'm surprised you even wanted to come out because I know you don't like nature. Like she's well aware that Stacy is not a nature girl,
Mm,
and Stacy is explaining that well she needs to talk to her about the ring. And when the mom said that Mel wasn't coming back for the memorial, she figured she would
mm.
was going to have to come out to talk to her in person, and the look on Mel's face,
Mel's face, yes.
uh
Mel's like, what, memorial?
memorial.
What memorial? And this tells you already what her relationship is with his side of the family,
Oh yeah, like
because
everybody but
because
him.
right, and so she says it's a small dinner at the house for friends and family. So my question is, hold it. What his wife is chopped liver?
Oh yeah, she's not invited.
Exactly.
I mean, it sounds like Mel's like, no, I wasn't invited, but it wouldn't be the first time. So it sounds like that the mother, and
Mm-hmm.
we will find out in a moment or two, Stacy never really accepted Mel as
Exactly.
part of the family. Like, yes,
Right.
she is Mark's wife. Yes, they did. I think they were together a year. They were married for 4, and he's been dead a year. So, because I think there was something mentioned later, it's like 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they were married for 5 minutes and he died. I mean, it was a fairly significant amount of time, enough time for all
Right.
the stuff that she went through with him. So yeah, the family never accepted her, and they made her feel it. I mean, he didn't, and I think that's maybe why they had a distance from
And I love where Stacy says, "Well, in mom's defense, whoa, 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 there's
that
no defense for being for being rude."
being a
You
bitch.
know?
Let's just call her what she is.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
come
yeah,
on. She's like, oh well,
yeah.
maybe she thought that you wouldn't come. It's like, well, you'd have to invite me in order to find out if I wouldn't come.
Right. And
Like,
then to say
I'm
that Mark
sure.
told us,
Don't you think that Mel would have gone if she had been invited?
yeah, exactly. And using the excuse that Mark and you were fighting. Couples fight time. It's part of the marriage. How is that an excuse for not inviting her to the memorial?
Right.
Uh,
And then she's like,
I
"Yeah, you
don't
were fighting a lot before he died, and
I
that
don't
he was
understand.
unhappy." It's like, but did he? She's like, did he really say that? She's well, not word for word, but we knew things weren't going well. Okay, that's a big stretch from
Yeah.
things aren't going well to we're fighting nonstop and he's unhappy. It's like, and then she reminds Stacy, who seems to have forgotten in her in whatever planet she's on. She's like,
Hmm.
Mel's like, yeah, we lost a child and then we couldn't get pregnant again. Like, that tends to cause problems in a marriage. That's a lot of stress. They were struggling. They still loved
Hmm.
each other, but they were struggling. And Stacy's like, yeah, don't take it personally, but mom
Personal.
never liked any of the women Mark brought home. That is
Oh, great.
so
And then
offensive.
exactly, because now we're throwing that in her face that there were women before her.
But
Does she
it's
like
irrelevant that the women
exactly,
before, because they were just girlfriends, dates.
exactly.
She,
You
like Mel
know,
says, he didn't just bring me home. They got
he married,
married.
married.
So
Yeah,
guess what? That elevates her to part of the family, and
exactly.
they just
Whether
never accepted that.
yeah,
So Stacy has to sort of poke the bear because she's really, really, really good at it. She's like, "Well,
mm,
if Mark were still alive, do you think you guys would still be together?"
um,
And Mel is like, I'm not. I mean, the look she gives her with the roll of the eyes and the walking away with her arms folded is like, I refuse to even justify that with an answer. Like,
exactly.
really? Like, I can't even believe that you asked that question.
Yeah, it's just it's so
It's awful. It's awful.
yeah,
So now
just
we're back
awful.
at Hope's house, and it's the morning after poor Jack had to sleep on the couch to keep Charmaine from spreading more gossip about Mel, and
Hmm.
he's having a flashback.
And he's there with Lonigan, and he keeps saying, "Come on, hang in there." And he says, "Please don't leave me." And he says, "I'm not going. You hear me?" And Lonigan says, "Promise." And he says, I don't leave a man behind. And poor Lonergan looks like hell.
Yeah, he
And
got it. He has a chest wound and he dies,
yeah, and yeah,
unfortunately. But Jack was right there with him the whole time.
yeah,
He didn't leave him, just like he promised. He's
yeah,
trying to save him, trying to do something, and
yeah,
the poor kid passes away. And
yeah.
at the same time, he's in the middle of this dream. Charmaine wakes him up and she's freaking out and she's like, my heart, it's racing and I don't know what's wrong. And he's like, oh, okay, fine, I'll call Doc. Like, obviously he was having his
No,
own little nightmare because
mm-hmm.
he was like thrashing around a little bit, not a lot, not like the night that he
Like
thrashed
you
around with
stated,
Mel,
Mel. Yeah.
but he was clearly having a little bit of distress. But it's
Mm,
Charmaine and she only thinks about herself. Now, granted, she's having palpitations in her heart and she's worried, but a little like, are you okay? This is what's going on with me. Like,
yeah.
it wouldn't have killed her.
Well, well, my thing is, she has a cell phone. Why didn't she call Doc when she started to realize
I
that?
don't know why she
But
didn't call Doc herself because
because
it's
she
all
wants
about getting
get
Jack, pulling
Jack
him
back.
in
Yep.
any way possible.
Yes. God forbid, she
Yeah.
can't pick up a phone because she
No,
knows how to pick up a phone and spread gossip, but she
she
don't
could,
know how
yeah,
to pick up a phone to call the doctor. Really?
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm
All
so
right.
scared. And then he says, it's okay, hun. Like, I think that was just a natural, like, just trying to be sweet.
And then we come to
The bakery
Connie,
truck.
the baking truck, and my favorite person. I love this woman.
Muriel's
I just
banging on
love
the
Muriel.
door. She's like,
It's
Connie,
like,
hello. And Connie is so funny. Keep your knickers on, woman. And she's like,
and
oh,
she,
well, good morning. Now she's hiding in there listening to the police scanner because
mm-hmm,
now she's sort of getting involved a little bit with Preacher and the drama with Wes and
mm-hmm,
Paige and knows that he's missing and all this stuff is going on. She's like, I'm going to listen to see if there's anything going on because I
right.
need to like help.
And all Muriel wants is her glazed donut and a cup of
Yeah, but she did say please. She did say please.
coffee.
And so she said, yeah, well, please me in about 5 minutes when I open. So at the same time that Connie's inside the bakery truck, she hears on the scanner that they're looking for someone who's missing. It's a Florida police detective, Wesley Logan. And she's like, oh, okay. And if he's located, notify missing persons and all that. So now she's like, okay, now they're talking about him. The girls are just going to have to wait. And the second that happens, then Hope walks up
Oh
and
shit!
she's a little more emotional about the coffee than Muriel.
Yeah.
And she's literally banging on the door. She's like,
Okay, so
Connie,
now
coffee.
you can relate to this
Yes, I
because
can.
this is not regular coffee like at Jack's, which is my thing. That's
Right.
my
That's
mojo.
like
This is
generic, real, but it is,
right. This
to be fair, it's
right,
really good coffee, and everyone talks about how good Jack's coffee is. But this is
right.
specialty coffee. This is lattes
Right.
and
And
cappuccinos
lattes
and
and cappuccinos, and this is what these ladies are here for.
yeah.
So that's the difference with Paige's truck is that
And,
it's elevated coffee.
well, and maybe this is closer to where they are compared to Jack's bar. Who knows?
Who knows? Because we
But
don't know distance to anything in this town.
maybe they're just supporting a friend. Who knows? Whatever. This is the coffee they
Hmm.
want. They both wound up here and they're both banging on the wall trying to get her to open so they can get their caffeine fix. I feel their pain. I do. I understand it. So Muriel
Yes.
thanks Hope and she's like, "For what?" And she's like, "Oh, for allowing Doc and I to spend so much time together." With her coy smile. And Hope is like, "Okay, you have to get me away from the Connie. I know you're in there." She's banging on the door again just to hurry her up so she doesn't have to have this conversation with
Yeah.
Muriel. She's like, "It's just been incredible. We have so much in common. And tonight they're going to go to a dance class in Clear River." She goes, "You're going dancing?" She goes, "Yes, I'm going to go and pick out a new dress for it." And then finally, Connie saves the day, opens up the thing and has the coffee and the donuts. Everything's ready. And she gets Muriel out of there. And then Muriel gives Hope a
Let's
hug.
talk to hug, which
Oh my
makes
God. And she's like, "Thanks for everything." And she scoots off. She's like, "Yeah, sounds like Muriel and Doc are getting along real good." He's like, "Mm-hmm, yeah, they are." And she goes, "Oh, what are you up to?" And she goes, "Just trying to order coffee." She goes, "Well,
Mm.
And she says, you know you lie about as well as you play canasta.
You can ask her.
Apparently not very good. So
No, she doesn't play canasta very well.
she says, the coffee's coming. So now we're back at Hope's house. And Jack is getting some things together for Charmaine before he leaves, waiting for Doc to find out what's going on. And Doc says that he's just checking her out and he's going to get some blood work done for Grace Valley. And, we're going to see what's happening. We don't know, but we have to see what's happening. And so Jack is like, okay. She really doesn't want Mel treating her. And she's like, oh, yeah, she told me that. But we want her as relaxed as possible. So for now, we're just going to have Mel kind of advise from afar. Like, we're not going to have Mel come over, but if I need to ask her a question, she can do that. And then he asks Jack, like, how are you doing? And he's like, well, why? Like, he's looking at him like strange. And he goes, well, can I be blunt?
You look like hell.
You look like hell. And he laughs. He's like, thanks. He's like, well, I did sleep on the couch. He goes, yeah, a lot of stress, a lot's going on. He's like, no, Jack, no, I'm fine. Just trying to focus on, I'm trying to focus on Charmaine. And he's like, all right, well, if there's anything, I'll let you know. So Jack's just like, oh my God, I have to deal with this woman.
He does not look
No,
well.
He looks exhausted. He looks like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Yeah. And at the same time, Doc's walking out the door, and who should appear but...
Who's walking in with what she got from the bakery truck. He's like, oh, an apology? She's like, no, a bear claw. I accept your bear claw. So she said that she would like the two of them to do something together. And he's like, okay, what? And she's like, how about a River Cats game? And apparently where the River Cats are is like a round trip 4 hours away.
Jeez.
That's probably too much. He says, I'm going to be going to a dance class.
And she says, that could be fun. You see, this is what I don't understand. And she says, well, no, it's Miriam's idea, and she invited me to join the class. The deal is this. Now she's starting to feel that they should do things left out.
FOMO, exactly. Fear of missing out.
Right. But at the same time, now she wants to do what he's supposed to be doing with Mariel. And it's just like, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
Hope. You want him to do this.
She's trying.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Mariel's very excited. She goes, yeah, I ran into Mariel. Like, she asks, what are you doing? He tells her. She acts surprised, but then she's like, yeah, I ran into Mariel. She's very excited. So you already knew. She's like, oh, apparently you two have a lot in common. He goes, yeah. So that's what this is all about. So she says she finally admits that she feels bad about the egg race, and she's trying to make it up to him. If you prefer not to have me join you, whatever, then don't turn this around.
Right. She's turning it around on him now.
Blaming it on him.
It's like, it's like you're the one who messed up, and now you're trying to blame it on him. And he's like, no, you want to come to the dance class? Come. Now she's inviting. It's just like,
And she's like, yeah, but what about your date with Muriel? And he's like, it's not a date. It's a group class. Like, it's not a big deal. And he's like, look, I'm going to the clinic. He gives her back the bear claw. And he leaves.
Yeah, because
she offended him. She offended him.
Yeah. They show us Jack bringing tea to Charmaine, and he says, here you go. And he's, I gotta go home, have a shower.
And then she reminds him, she's like, but wait a minute, because I think he said he was going to stop by later.
Yeah.
And he's like, but wait a minute, aren't your friends coming in town? And he's like, well, yeah, later. And she's like, well, how long has it been since you've seen them? And he says, like, about 3 years. And she's like, no, you go, Jack. Go be with your friend. He's like, well, what if you need something? And she's like, look, I can call Hope. I can call Doc. There's other people I can
See what
call.
I mean?
Yeah.
She could have picked up the
Right. She's like, I just want you to be happy, Jack. Right. You want his happiness is only going to be if she's happy. She doesn't really care about his happiness. She just wants him to be happy with her. And that's just, sorry, sister, not going to happen.
Yeah.
So he's like, are you sure you're going to be okay by yourself? She's like, oh, of course. Really? Because you weren't fine 20 minutes ago. But okay, now you're all of a sudden miraculously. Convenient, isn't it?
Yes.
She's so
Yes.
happy with him. Like now
Yes.
she thinks she's, in a way, it's like, I'm doing you a favor. I'm letting you go be with
Yes.
your friends. Because
Yeah.
you wanted to be here with me, but I'm releasing you to go be with
Oh,
your
yes.
friends. It's like,
Yeah.
really? You
Yeah.
think you have that? And he thanks her, which I think is kind of funny. Like, he's not really, but feels good about it because she's like, oh, yeah, he'll remember this. He'll remember that I'm the one that let him. It's like, no, sister, no.
Yes.
So we're at Jack's bar, and there's this, seems like a new waiter who's kind of messing up. I don't know what he's
Mm-hmm.
doing. Somebody wants to pay by check, and preacher's like, yeah, it's fine. They're regulars. I'll take care of it. No big deal. He's serving some food, and Connie is with her stealthily self. She's so funny.
Yeah.
She's trying to be so discreet, and she's so not discreet. Like, she goes up to him and she was like, I heard on the police scanner there's something you need to know about. And he was like, okay, but I can't talk right now. Like, I'm really busy. She goes, tonight, my place, after closing. Like, okay. Okay,
It's like
Columbo.
espionage. Yeah, exactly. It's espionage.
Yeah.
So then she goes over to
Oh, she is pissed. She walks
Fisk.
right up to Mel.
Yeah.
Mel turns to Connie. She's like, this is my sister-in-law. She goes, you, my friend, are in some very hot water. And she goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about writing a birth control prescription for my teenage niece without my consent. And Stacy, the look on Stacy's face is like, you did what? And Mel handles it so,
As professionally as she
oh my
always
gosh.
does.
She's like, let's go outside. She goes, you bet your bottom dollar, sister. She's like, I'll be right back. And Stacy's like, just annoyed with Virgin River from start
in
to finish.
general.
Like, every time you see her, she just looks like, I cannot wait to just get done
Get
what I
out
need
of
to get done and get the hell out of Dodge. Like, this small town business is not me. If the mother, I believe, well, Mark was a wealthy doctor. I believe that the family comes from money.
Money, yeah.
So you assume that Stacy as well has money, and this country living, as she probably feels like it is just
out
not
of her league.
Not her thing.
This is out of her league. I
not
mean,
her thing.
Because even Mel, who is pretty nonchalant.
Yeah, but you could tell there was a down home.
Right, exactly.
Under there.
But the difference is Mel didn't have her head stuck up where.
Yes.
Where Stacy puts her nose down at everything
is
in this
beneath
town.
her. Everything is beneath her.
Exactly.
So Mel steps outside with Connie to have a conversation, and she's like, give me one good reason why I shouldn't report you to the AMA, the American Medical Association. And she's like, well, first of all, I'm a nurse. I'm not a doctor. And she was trying to explain it that Lizzie's 19, which means as an adult, she has the right to privacy, and that Mel is not allowed to discuss what's going on with Lizzie with her aunt because she's over 18. And Connie's like, well, maybe that's how you do things in LA. And Mel's like, no, not just LA. It's called HIPAA. It's a federal law, and that's kind of how things work. And she's like, well, I don't care what you call it. But Lizzie's still a child, and she ripped up her prescription. And she's like, well, wouldn't an unplanned pregnancy be far worse for her? Connie's still not happy. She's like, my niece didn't come to Virgin River to be corrupted by a big city nurse like you. It's like, oh, okay. Wow. Who's handing out birth control pills like Tic Tacs?
Tic Tacs. I love that. Just like Tic Tacs.
And Mel's reminding her, she's like, look, you should be happy that Lizzie is trying to be responsible. And Connie's like, yeah, I'm going to talk to Doc about this. I believe it's time for you to shill those loose moral code of yours. And she's like, okay, well, you go ahead and do what you feel you need to do. And I'm going to do what I'm charged to do as Lizzie's health care provider. And she's like, you stay away from my niece, Missy. She's like, I mean it. Like, oh my God. Like, she's scolding her like she's 5.
5.
It's ridiculous. So at the same time, Jack just arrived because he's probably unloading his truck again. And he's like, hey. And Mel's like, hey. And she's looking around, and Stacy is gone because the two of them were sitting at the end of the bar. Like, Mel's favorite spot
Exactly.
is the end of the bar
Exactly. A bar, yeah.
by the coffee. I mean, you know, that's where the best place is to sit.
And
And,
also, it's closer to Jack's office where she can see
well,
into his
closer to
office.
Jack because he'll just stand there, He'll just be
Mhm.
there because he's always there, and he'll just be by Mel anyway. So she's like, "Did you see my sister-in-law, Stacy?" And he's like, "No, I just walked in myself. I don't know what to tell you." So he asked her if she wants a refill, and she's like, "Of course." And he's like, "Well, that's really sweet of her to come pay you a visit." She's like, "Yeah, super nice. She asked for my engagement ring," and he looks at her like,
whoa.
"What?" And he actually sits down with her at the bar, like in Stacy's seat, to have this, because this is going to require a conversation. This is not something you chat with over the bar. No, 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 no,
Exactly.
no. We gotta have a sit
Yeah.
down. We gotta have
And
a
so
sit down.
and she says it's Mark's mother Mimi's ring.
Right.
And she came, and Jack says that's pretty bold of her to ask.
Yeah. And she's like, "Yeah,
And
I thought so, right?" And he's like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And she's like, "I don't know. I mean, she doesn't want to fight with her about it, right? But she can't imagine giving it to her either." And Jack's advice is, well, I would definitely give that some thought. Like, that's his advice. You got to think about it.
Yeah.
And Preacher walks in. He's like, "Hey." And he's like, "The guys are almost here." And Mel's like, "Oh, guys?" And Jack's like, "Yeah, some buddies from the Corps, sort of a reunion thing." And she's looking at him like, "Are you okay? Because you don't look." Now, remember, he had the whole back thing. Remember when they were throwing the mattress on the bed and he strained his back and she had to put some stuff on his back? Well, he's making those motions again. And he was like, "Yeah, I had to sleep on the couch." And he's like, "Oh, well, that's, it's Charmaine's." And he goes, "Oh, that's really nice of you." She's trying to be very diplomatic about it. The look on her face is like, yeah, really nice of you. Mm-hmm. He's like, "Well, Charmaine promised to stop gossiping if I stayed," which that's not really how the conversation went.
Yeah. And this is where Mel, now this upsets Mel.
Yeah.
This upsets Mel because I don't like that she's using you to manipulate, me to manipulate you.
Exactly.
And because that's exactly what she's doing. She's manipulating him.
But
so
I mean, if you listen, like the conversation that actually happened of why she asked him to stay, he said no. He had asked her to stop gossiping, but it wasn't like a quid pro quo where if I do this for you, you'll do that. It was more like, I'm asking you to knock it off. Yeah, I'm going to stay. But I feel like it wasn't really like I don't know. I didn't see the conversation as a manipulation. It wasn't like, I'm not going to stay if you don't stop gossiping. Because he was going to stay, but he asked her to please stop gossiping. So maybe it was like an implied type thing, like an implied manipulation. But I didn't feel like it was outright. Not like some of the other stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, and he says, "I'm only being manipulated if I'm not aware of it."
Exactly. And he was aware, so he doesn't really see it as a manipulation. Yeah. So she's like, "Yeah, but I still..." And they're in this conversation, the two of them, like there's nobody else in the world. And she's like, "Yeah, but I still don't like it." Stacy comes out of the bathroom, stands there very indignant in front of Mel, and she's like, "Can we go?"
Can we go? Like a 5-year-old, you know.
And she's like, "Yeah, sure." And I love Jack just watches her leave, furrows his eyebrows, and he is like, she's like, "Okay, well, gotta go." He goes, "Remember, manipulation comes in all shapes and sizes." Yeah. And kind of gives her a look, and she goes, "Oh, yeah, that's a nice slogan. Yeah, we should get matching hats." So I love the banter, the joking, the little comments between them. It's very cute. I think it's adorable. So now we're back behind Jack's bar, and Ricky is taking out the trash.
And he should come along, but Miss Lizzie.
Yes. And he's like, "What happened to you?" And she, of course, is clueless. Like, egg relay? And she's like, "Oh, yeah, sorry. Totally spaced. My bad." So she came to invite him to a party. She's like, "Oh, really? well, yeah, maybe, I'm sure. And she's like, oh, yeah, give me your phone. And you can pick me up at 9, meet me down the street because my aunt has me on lockdown. And you can handle the booze, right? I don't know where I'm going to get any booze. And she's like, hello, dumbass. You work at a bar.
Mm.
And she's like, tequila. And he's like, yeah. Like, he's actually excited. Like, oh, cool. Now we're back in the front door.
And the
in
guys are here.
walks the guys. These are his Marine buddies. And he yells, Sheridan and Middleton, fall in. And they're all hugging, really excited to see each other, laughing. They would have been there.
All handsome-looking men.
Yeah, good group of guys. They would have been there sooner, but one of the guys got married and he went to Vegas. So they got a little delayed. But they're all there. They're all happy to see each other. And I think Mike is one of the few of them, like with Preacher and Jack, that are not married. And and Mike is like, yeah, everybody's dropping like flies, you know. So now they're like, well, where's Brady? Oh, he doesn't work here anymore. And they kind of look at each other like, oh, okay. Because you know Brady is a very sore subject, not only with Preacher and Jack at the moment,
but apparently everybody else.
Everybody. So they're talking about what they're going to do, and, you know, they're going to drink and they're going to play. They're just going to, you know, have some guy time, which is great. So they're all excited, and they're like, all right, let's go. Let's get going. So unfortunately, Preacher has to miss out on part of it because somebody has to run the bar. And he was like, yeah, you should talk to your boss about that. Jack pulls Preacher aside before he leaves, and he was like, listen, they don't know about Charmaine. So I'd appreciate it if you didn't say anything. You know, it's a touchy subject. And he was like, yeah, man, I got you. Like, no worries. No problem. Because that's, you know, I mean, some of the guys are married. Some of them are dating. Some of them are engaged. And his personal life is kind of a hot mess.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, he doesn't want to air his dirty laundry. So, you know, if he wants to tell them, he'll tell them in his own time, whoever he wants to share it to. So Mel shows up at Doc's office at the clinic, and Doc is like, oh.
I need to talk to you about Charmaine. So basically, this is where he counsels. And he says, you know, she fired me, and I'm fine with that. And is it so?
Yeah, but there's not a lot of nurse practitioners around, so.
She has a slight
arrhythmia.
Yeah.
And they're waiting for the blood results. The blood test will give the results.
And the thing is, the minute he says that, she says, do you know what caused it? She turns straight into nurse mode.
Of course.
She doesn't even think about, okay, Charmaine.
I hate this woman and she's messing with me, and like, she's a professional. So
yes, she is.
So Doc's gonna figure it out. He's gonna take the blood sample to the hospital to get it analyzed. And then they're going to have to do a full panel and then figure out what's going on. And some people are they're thinking maybe hypoglycemia. I mean, you can have a lot of things happen when you're carrying twins. There's a lot more higher risk of different things happening because it's a lot more, it's a lot more strenuous on your body.
Just on your body, yeah.
They just need to find out. So he's going to take that sample. Could be diabetes, could be anything. And when the results come in, he asks if she could get Charmaine started on whatever the treatment is.
I find that's very unfair.
Well,
I really think that no, because she already fired her.
Yes.
Why are you doing that to her? You're putting her no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not buying this one.
No,
No,
the reason, I'll give you the reason, and then you can think about it and tell me what you think.
No, I'm not thinking about it. I'm going to be a 5-year-old now.
So be a 5-year-old, but that's okay. It's the health of the patient, right? Everyone is always, the first concern is the health of the patient. Now, Doc has to go on house calls, right? So he says, she's like, well, why can't you go give whatever the treatment is to Charmaine? And he said, because he's got a lot of house calls to make. And Mel's like, but wait, I'll do the house calls. You can go deal with Charmaine, right? Because that would be the best thing. And he's like, yeah, but one of them is Charlie.
Yeah.
And Mel's Charlie.
He can still do Charlie.
Male doctors only.
Charlie. I understand that. He can still do Charlie.
The problem is, if they find out what the treatment is going to be and Doc is still away, that means it's going to delay whatever that treatment is, and that could put Charmaine and the babies further at risk, and that's nothing that anybody wants. So that's why Mel has to get there, because she's at the office. Nobody can go see Charlie. Maybe Charlie's really sick. Maybe Charlie's sicker than Charmaine. We don't know. But he has to go do what he has to do. And the only way to make sure that Charmaine gets proper treatment as fast as possible, unfortunately, whatever that is if Mel's the one that does it. I know it sucks, and I don't agree with it either, but they're thinking of it as doctors and nurse practitioners, not as people who are upset with the situation.
I just find it puts her in a very bad place.
It puts her in a very bad place. But Mel is a professional, and he knows that. He knows that she can walk in there and do her job and put the feelings aside and deal with that at a different time when it's more appropriate. If he didn't think that she could handle it, he would not have asked. That's what I think.
So.
I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just saying that's how I feel about it.
I just feel like he's put her in a really bad spot.
Yes, I agree.
I just think he should not have put her in that position. It's one thing if you're not aware of the situation, but you're aware of it.
No, he knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows, of course. It's Virgin River. Everybody knows everybody's business. But I just think I would have found another way to do this. But hey, I'm not.
It's only the two of them. It's only the two of them. So they got to do what they got to do.
Anyway.
Anywho, and then of course it's funny how Mel is like, because when he says, "Well, I have to go see Charlie," and she's, "Oh, right, male doctors only." Damn it, Charlie. Charlie actually comes around. I think there is a time later where Charlie actually lets Mel treat him, which I think is adorable. That he has, and remember, him and Mel had a moment.
Yes, he did.
Early on with the baby, because
the baby,
he was also adopted, and he understood, even though everybody was mad at her for trying to call social services about Chloe. But he was like, no, I get it, because my foster parents turned into real parents. And so I think if Mel had shown up to care for him, he probably would have. But Doc is like old school, and he said, nope, Charlie said no female doctors. That's what I'm sticking to.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever, Mel's just going to have to deal with it, and she's not happy. So now we go back to the Marine buddies who are there on bicycles, like mountain biking.
Yeah, mountain biking. Yeah,
mountain biking through the forest.
And I am impressed by this. I have to tell you, I am so impressed because they're going very fast
over these big hills. I mean, I used to do that when I was like 14. I can't tell you how many back tires I popped jumping over stuff. God, I used to have to replace my back tire like at least once a week because I'd jump over everything. Busted on curbs and everything. That was me. But there was a little forest behind us and we used to ride through. But they get to this like beautiful plateau where they can see the scenery, and Jack's trying to talk him into like taking this washboard back down to the river, and the guys are all like,
nope.
Because they're not 20 anymore.
Exactly.
And then one of the guys reminds Jack, he's like, isn't that where Preacher blew out his knee? And he's like, yeah, but he choked right before the long drop, like keep your momentum up. You'll be good. You'll be fine. And he's like, dude, yeah, we're okay with the bunny hills, man. And the other guy's like, yeah, totally. Like that sounds perfect. Like, let's do that. And the guys are kind of like looking at it, and he's like, okay, well, that just leaves you and me. He goes, no, man, like my boss will kill me if I come back in a cast. Like, like, no, these are older men. They're in their 40s now.
Well, they're all in the same age. But the thing about it is they understand their limitations. Jack is running from something.
Well, Jack has his head in some other space, and he's risking it all, and he doesn't care. Yeah. But they've got their feet planted firmly on the ground, so they're not taking chances. Some of them have wives and kids, and he's like, no, yeah, come on, it'll be great. Just follow me. And he goes, yeah, isn't that what you said in Iraq? One of the guys said. And everybody was like, man, dude, like, what? Like, and catches Jack off guard.
Mm-hmm.
And he immediately apologizes. He's like, that sounded a lot funnier in my head, but sorry, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jack's got.
And the guys get right on him for it. They're like, Zeke, God, don't be a jerk. Like, come on. He goes, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean that. And he goes, yeah, cool. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Let's go. So then he decides to take him to the easier, not the bunny hill, but, probably something a lot less strenuous.
And, well, what they were on before
that was dangerous.
Fine. Yeah,
It would be like skiing in Black Diamond, you know? Like we're not doing that.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Nope. Back at the
We're back
clinic.
at, and one of our favorite people.
Yep, Mel is saying goodbye to Bert, and
Yes.
she's telling him that his wrist is healing nicely, but she still doesn't like his cholesterol numbers. And he's like, "Yeah, well, I don't care for him much either." So she reminds him to take his medicine, and he's like, "All right, see you in 2 weeks." And just as she's getting ready to walk back inside, she looks at the plaque by the front door.
From paper to actual a plaque,
An actual
wooden
plaque
plaque.
with her name on it that says Mel Monroe. Smaller, very much smaller, because you know Doc is the top dog.
God, he's such an
Yeah,
idiot.
but it's really nice. It's very thoughtful. That's like his way to fully accept her into the practice. Is he's not changing the
Yeah.
stationery, but he's gonna give her a plaque on the wall. So it says Mel Monroe, nurse
Such a
practitioner.
jerk.
And she taps
Such
it
a
as she
jerk.
walks in, and she's like, "Oh, that's so nice."
Oh, yes.
So it's empty. The waiting room is empty, and she's sitting down with her laptop, and she's kind of perusing through a bunch of pictures.
And so all the pictures are marked, and she's just going through them, and they're great pictures.
Yeah.
And at the same time, who should walk in but good old Hope?
And she's
She's like,
still dying to know. She goes, "Yeah, curiosity is a sign of intelligence." And she's like, "Uh-huh." And it's funny that Mel actually tells her what she's doing because maybe they've kind of, I don't know, hit a place in their relationship where, no, I don't, she hasn't been betrayed by Hope yet. That's the Jack thing, and she may not even know what's going on, like with Jack and all of that. So she kind of is like, "Well, I'm looking at pictures of my husband." Now, she may have said something because of what day it is. Nobody knows. Keep in mind, the only people in Virgin River who know that Mel no longer has a husband, like an actual person. Like, yes, she wears a ring and everyone has seen the ring and people have commented on the ring, but Jack is the only one that knows that she had a husband and he died. Nobody else knows that. So everyone, she's been there 2 months now, and
I'd say 3 months, but yeah.
Maybe, yeah. But she's never mentioned a husband. No one's ever heard her talk to a husband. No husband has ever visited. She's never left to go visit a husband or mentioned one. But yet she wears a ring. So everyone, that's like the big Mel mystery, is what's up with the husband. Besides Jack knowing, and of course he'll never say anything, he won't tell anybody. That's when she kind of hears it from. Because remember, she was talking to Hope a little bit about it at the dinner. And she's like, "There's things that have happened to me that I'm just not ready to talk about." And she was like, "Okay, that's fine." And she didn't push her. So she knew there was a story. She just didn't know what it was. And that has been eating at her since that day. She has been dying to find out. Right. So this is where she tells Hope, "I had a husband." She goes, "Oh, okay, that's why you have a ring." And she goes, "But he died almost a year ago." And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." She goes, "I know how hard that must be." And Mel's like, "Thanks." And she's like, "Oh, okay, so that probably explains why you're here." And she goes, "Yeah, I mean, every time I turn around, I see something that reminded me of him. And it just got to be too hard." And she said, "Yeah, my second husband," Hope says, "my second husband passed away 3 months after we got married." She says, "I was devastated for almost a year. You expect them to walk through the door." And Mel totally she feels the same way. She's like, "Yeah, it's me too." She thought by moving someplace new that it would help. And Hope's like, "Did it?" Mel's like, not as much as she hoped. So, but what are you going to do? So Hope is out and very sweet.
Who touches her hand, and they share that moment together.
So they both have lost a husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now this is one of my favorite parts of the show.
This Jamie chick. I don't know if I love her or hate her. I'm not really sure. She kind of bugs, but
she's into food.
Yeah,
which I love.
She's a foodie. So she's a total foodie.
She's a foodie. So we see her at the bar. At the bar, and she's at one of the tables, and basically she has ordered almost everything on the menu.
She's got like five or six plates on that table, and they're full plates. It's not like Preacher brings out the last plate, and he was like, "You're not finding anything you like?" And she's, "Oh, quite the opposite. Food is outstanding."
And how big is she? She's the size of a toothpick.
I know. And she's like, "Who's the chef? I really want to meet him." And he's like, "Oh, really? And who are you exactly?" And she's like, "Oh, well, I own a restaurant in San Francisco, and I might just have to steal him away. Is there any chance that I could get an introduction?"
And Preacher wipes his hand and says, "Hi." And she says, "You like to keep a low profile."
Yeah. And she
And he says,
wonders,
"I don't."
"Where did you learn how to
You
cook?"
learn to cook like that, yeah.
And he says,
And in the Marines, ma'am.
"It's
And
like, no."
and he says, "Marines never lie."
Well, she's like, "I don't believe it for a second. There's no way." And
And
he's Marines don't lie. So sorry, ma'am. He keeps mamming her.
but just as an interesting side note, in America, we as a form of respect, we say ma'am and sir.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to England, they get offended if you say that.
Really?
Because ma'am and sir are titles that are bestowed upon you. It's not something that you say to someone.
How do you get a title like that?
Well, it's a royal title, or
Ma'am?
it's a title. Well, yeah, it's like being named dame. If you have to be anointed as a dame,
Okay.
or and a ma'am. It's sort of like an upper crust sort of thing. So you don't go up to ordinary people and say sir or ma'am to them, because that's not how they do it there in England. So they get offended when we in America do that.
I mean, it's
To
very
them there.
common. Like military people call
Right,
everybody ma'am.
exactly. Right, but that's the thing. And so what you have to remind them of is that what it means to you in the UK doesn't mean the same thing that it means here in the United States, because it's a and also if you come from the South, everything is ma'am and sir.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just part of the upbringing.
I
You know
know.
that as a
Bless your heart. I know.
You know,
Yeah.
you know that as a kid.
Oh yeah,
anyway,
100%.
such,
Sir,
but-
miss, ma'am. Yeah. Oh man.
So anyway,
So she questions, like, "What? I hope you calling me ma'am doesn't, like, it's not a reference to my age." And he chuckles a little bit, and he was like, "Absolutely not. He's just military. That's just,
yeah, he's
so.
just the way he is. Yeah.
So he starts asking her, like, "Are you just passing through?" She's like, "No, I'm just staying in one of the riverside cabins." And he's like, "Oh, it's really nice over there." And he's asked her if she would like a glass of Barolo to go with her filet.
Mm-hmm.
Now that
It's
she's
a
like,
very
"Oh, do you guys carry Barolo?" And he's like, "Well, yes, I do in my private stash." Now, I don't know anything about wine, so I'm going to refer to you. Do you know what that is?
Yeah. It's a very expensive wine, and one of those things where you have it for special occasions.
Okay.
And so this is not a cheap bottle of wine. Okay, let me just say that right now. This is like
I assume so.
This is like a paydays, depending on how well your payday is. This is a full day's pay.
Ooh.
When you buy
So
this
it better
bottle
be
of wine.
tasting good then for that price.
It is very good, but it is bloody
Very
expensive. Bloody expensive. And that's why she said, "Do you carry it?" And that's why he said it's in my private stash.
Well, yeah, he's not going to be, people aren't going to be swigging that on the bar.
No. My question is, once he opens it, he's got to drink the rest of it, because it's not like
a problem with that. He seems to be a little sweet on her. I mean, Paige is gone.
Anyway.
Right?
Yeah.
He's looking for a new love interest. Poor Preacher just cannot hold on to a woman. I'm so sorry.
Nope, he can't.
Oh, Preacher.
Anyhow,
oh,
yes.
Preacher. So she's like, "Yeah, that'd be great." So he's gonna go get that, so she can have this yummy glass of wine with her filet.
With all her meals, yes.
So Ricky goes into the office to put his apron away, and he opens up a box because there was a delivery that's in Jack's office on the floor, and he grabs something. I don't even think he knows what it is. Puts it in his bag, zips it up, and he's trying to be all, stealthy about it. And then the new guy runs into him, and he goes, "Hey, I think I messed up an order. I need you to come help me." And he's like, yeah, I'll be there in a second. So,
and you can see this is not something that he does.
This is not Ricky.
This is so not him. This is not Ricky. And the problem is, a girl shows any interest in you for the first time because he's so shy. He
Yeah.
wants to fit in. Oh God.
I
This is the
know.
wrong girl to try to fit in with
Well, I'm
because she is.
sorry, but she just looked like trouble from the second
I
she
was
stepped
now
in
about to
Virgin
say
River.
that. I was now about to
I
say
mean,
that
we can
girl is
always hope
she
that she comes around, she mellows out, and stops trying to pretend to
get the
be
boy.
somebody she's not. But we'll
Mm-hmm.
see. Well, we can
Yes,
have hope, right?
yes,
We
we
can
can.
always have hope. So now we're back at the park, and this is one of the many locations that Paige's bakery truck sets up
Is
at.
located today.
Yeah,
Yes.
today they're at the park, and all of the Marine guys are hanging out at the park, just having a little like tag football game, just having some fun. And Mike throws the ball, and Jack catches it, and he spikes it, and then
Mm.
Mike gives him a big hug. And as they're enjoying their touchdown or whatever,
Who should appear?
yes,
He came in
something
with a
more
tiny
along the
radio.
lines of what Stacy would be interested in, which would be coffee from the bakery truck.
Exactly. Real, as you would say, real coffee.
Yes. So Stacy and Mel are strolling down the path to the bakery truck, and they see this. Well, Mel sees it. I think Stacy couldn't care less.
No,
Mel
no.
sees the guys playing football, notices. Now, at the same time, there's a cooler that Mike grabs a beer, hands one to Jack. They open it up. They're just going to take a minute, cool off. And at the same time, they're taking a drink. Mel and Stacy get to the bakery truck. They're placing their order. And right out of the corner of his eye, he sees Mel. Now, Mike is talking to Jack, and he's like, "Are you all right, dude?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he's like, "Look, what Zeke said to you earlier, he wasn't thinking." He's like, "Oh, don't even worry about it, man. People just pop off. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it." And that's when Jack takes another drink, and he sees Mel. And at the same time he sees Mel, Mel sees him. They give each other a little wave, little smile, little wave.
Little acknowledgement.
Yes. And Mike is like, who's that? Because, he's like, And Jack's like, "Oh, she's the nurse." And he looks, eyebrows go up. He looks at Jack, and he's like, "That's Mel." And Jack's so calm and cool, collected. Yeah, yeah. And he's laughing. He goes, "Oh, you like her." He goes, "No, man, we're just friends." He goes, "Oh, okay, right." Like, And he goes, "No, really." He goes, "Well, if I were you, I would lock that down." He's so cute. I love Mike. And he goes, "Well, yeah, but it's a little more complicated than that." And Mike's like, "Well, what's going on? What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, her husband died a year ago." Surprising he said that. But maybe because Mike doesn't live in Virgin River and he's going to go and he's going to leave out of town. It's not like he talks to anybody in town anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think besides Preacher, Mike is like one of his other best friends.
Best friends, yeah.
So it's like even guys need people to talk to. So I feel like normally he would not, like he wouldn't say it to the other guys, but he's going to tell Mike. He's going to tell Preacher, but he won't let it go past that. And he wouldn't just spread that around. And he was like, "Yeah, well," and then Charmaine's pregnant. And Mike's like, "Okay, whoa." And then he's like, "Yeah, and it's twins." It's like, "Whoa, what?" Oh my goodness. He's like, "I didn't even know that you guys were still together." And he's like, No, we're not. We broke up like a month ago. It's over." But, and he's like, "Well, what can I do? I care about her, and she's not the one." Meaning, the chick you just waved to, that would be the one. And Mike, who is such a good friend, he's like, "Look, if you need anything, I'm here for you, right?" He's like, "Yeah." Now, I don't know why, but I hate this scene. It's just so dumb. It's just, I'm sorry. It's just dumb. So the other guys are like mulling around in the bushes. And they're like,
well,
look,
they're looking for the ball.
I know.
And
You got to see this. There's a dog here. Like, take it to the pound. Like, look around for the owner. check its tags. Like, really? But
Yeah.
no, what does Jack do?
So he brings the dog to Charmaine.
He brings the dog to Charmaine. Like, really?
Mm.
And she's like, oh my gosh, who is this? He goes, look, we found him by the lake. Like, oh, he's adorable. Figured he might be able to keep you company. If it's too much for you, we can find somebody else to take him. She goes, oh, no, he's not going anywhere. I'm gonna keep him. Oh my gosh. And he goes, look, it looks like you're feeling a little better. She goes, well, I am now. I mean, I've won the family lottery. A dog and twins. I mean, wow. So
And what I don't understand is he's bringing a dog into whose house?
I know. Like, you might want to talk to Hope about that.
Exactly.
But
you should have thought. He's talking about boundaries, and he's just crossed one boundary.
Oh yeah, I know. Like, you don't bring a dog into someone else's house.
Somebody's house? No, you don't.
Oh my god.
Because I had to kick his ass. Sorry.
It's okay. But she's like, so what should we name him? And he's looking at her like, I'm not naming any dog. Like, I'm out, dude. Tap now. He's like, I'm not even gonna answer. Okay, there's a little story about the dog. Little behind the scene. So, in the original idea about this dog, this is season 2. Season 2 was filmed during the pandemic. And people were already having to, like, social distance. They weren't allowed to congregate. They couldn't be near each other too much. Even if like this group was a closed set, meaning once you're there, you stay, you don't leave. Everyone's sequestered in a way so that nobody gets sick because they're not introducing any new people and people aren't leaving and all of that. So when they brought this dog onto the scene, the original plan was that at some point, Mel and Jack were supposed to wind up with the dog, or Mel was supposed to wind up with the dog. And I don't know if I heard this in a interview or I read it somewhere, but Alex Breckenridge, who plays Mel, she was like, okay, can I ask a question about that? Because what sense would it make for Mel and or Jack to wind up with Charmaine's dog? Why would you take her dog? Like, why? What sense does that make? And then because it's the pandemic, things are already, I mean, they always say it's really hard. It's hardest to work with children and animals. And when you've got, like, pandemic protocol and everything else, she's like, please, 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 could we not have a dog? Could we just maybe fade the dog out? And it just doesn't make sense. Why would Mel even want a dog that Charmaine had? Why would she want her leftover dog? Like, it just, the storyline didn't make sense. And it just seems so out of character, or it didn't flow right. So it seems that they scrapped that idea.
Thank goodness.
And later on, because I even did a post about it, like, all of a sudden, where's the dog's name is Tucker later. Where's the dog? Like, he just kind of disappeared. I even made a lost and found poster on my Instagram. Like, has anyone seen Tucker? He was last seen, and if you do see him, please call Jack or Preacher at the bar. Like, because no one's seen him. He was gone. But fortunately, I see a dog in Mel and Jack's future because I think it's a good first step. A dog is a good first step. And, maybe there'll be one in the future. We'll see. We'll have to see. Anywho, I digress. I just thought it was an interesting tidbit that they were supposed to have a dog, Mel and Jack. And
then now we have no dog.
She scrapped. She was like, no, we're not doing that. So let's move on. So now we're back at Brady, and he is, remember, he's in charge of the lumberyard.
Yes, he is.
And all of the goings on. Now, because they are transporting drugs, is what we're assuming.
Yes.
He gives the drivers very special instructions. My boss tells you to stay off the 101. The 101 in California is a very, very, very busy freeway.
It is.
It's God like, knows. If you live on the East Coast, I-95, I'm from the East Coast. I-95 is a very busy freeway. The 101 on the West Coast, the 405, very busy freeways.
Well, it runs right through the state.
Yeah.
It starts from the top of California and runs all the way down until you get to the border.
A lot of truckers use it because it goes through LA. you're going to be
Yeah.
able to hit all of the major parts of the city where you would need to like
Yeah.
deliver.
And it runs up here too.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah, for
101.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty long, definitely.
Right. Okay.
But it's like a diagonal, I guess. But they
Mm.
don't want these drivers on main roads because
Yeah,
there's a
they don't want to
better
attract
chance
attention.
that they're going to attract
Yeah.
attention, get pulled over, and then get caught. So he's like, my
Mm.
boss wants you to stay off the main roads. Just it takes longer. He's telling them to take like SR 299, which is probably this little dinky road in the backwoods, but it's safer.
Mhm.
It's safer. Nobody's there.
There's no cops running
Right.
through there. That's the thing. The highway patrol is always on the highway.
Right.
And so they're not doing the back roads.
Right.
So that's why they're doing it that way.
So Calvin shows up and he's like, hey, there's a detective sniffing around town asking questions.
And it's LAPD.
Yeah. And Brady's like, oh, it's probably Mike Valenzuela. And he's like, you know him? He's like, well, yeah. They serve together. They're Marines, and him and Jack and Preacher, and everybody's in town for a reunion. And Jack told me just before I quit, and so don't worry about it. I'll keep an eye on him. You don't have anything to worry about. And I know there's more going on to this logging operation than you're telling me, but I'm not risking going back to jail. And he's like, look, tell me what's going on or cut me loose. And Calvin, he bends. He's like, it's fentanyl. And Brady's like, no, that is not what I signed up for. He goes, hey, I thought you signed up to make a lot of money. He goes, yeah, I did. He goes, look, a kilo of fentanyl cost me $5,000. But once I cut it and turn it around and sell it, I make $300,000. That's a lot of profit. And Brady's just like the dollar signs. You can almost see him in his head. Once the business is on its feet, I'm considering early retirement. And he's looking at Brady. He goes, I'm getting tired of hopping around here on one leg, but I need someone to take over. And he's like, uh-huh. And he gives him a look, and he hobbles away. So Brady's like, well, And he goes, yeah, for a healthy share of the profits. So he's not going to give a business to him, but he's going to give him a good chunk of it. If he can trust him and if he passes it on to him. Brady just has to decide if he wants to work with fentanyl. Like, that's a risk.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So it's after hours, and Connie is getting ready to close up her little corner store. Preacher shows up, so she locks the door, puts the close sign up, and they sit down and talk. And she's like, okay, Wes is a cop. And he's like, yeah, okay. And he gets ready to leave. And she's like, look, was Paige hiding? Like, she knows something's up. She's taken what she has and is trying to piece it all together with what little information. So she's asking, was Paige hiding from him? Because now that she thinks back of all the things that Paige did, how she acted, Christopher wasn't in school, and just the if you paid attention, looking back, you can see.
You see the signs, yeah.
And one thing she says is, I've gone over my head a million times when Wes showed up at Paige's house, and it's like something stuck out. She said Christopher was excited about seeing his dad, but then when he went to hug him, Christopher flinched for like a millisecond. And she thought maybe she imagined it, but now she's looking back and reevaluating everything now that she knows, and is like, oh, this is a problem. And Preacher assures her, look, you didn't do anything wrong. I mean, gosh, she could have gotten hurt. If Wes, Wes could have done something, So she had to do what she had to do and let him take Christopher. That's the safe thing to do. And so, Preacher doesn't want her to feel guilty about it or whatever. And she's like, I can't. She's got her own. I love how this show, everybody has a backstory.
Yeah.
Like, you don't meet a character and the surface from the day you meet them forward is the only thing you ever know. Like, and not just a backstory, like a rich backstory. Yes. And a lot of them we still haven't. I mean, the show's been on, 5 seasons now, and there's still some people we don't know their whole backstory. We can get little nuggets, but we don't have like a full backstory. So Connie sits down and she's like, here's the story. When I was growing up, there was this family, mother, father, little girl, lived in a big house. It was really nice. Everyone thought they had a perfect life. And he's like, yeah, but He's like, the father, bad temper, especially when he drank. He beat his wife, put her in the hospital a couple times. But the little girl, she was a little too scared to tell anybody. And he asked what had happened to her. He's like, well, one day she came home from school and found the police waiting, and she thought, finally, the father would be taken away, and her mother would be okay. He wouldn't hurt the mom anymore. And he's like, well, was he arrested? She's like, yeah, he was. For killing his wife. And she just looks so sad.
She does.
He's like, the father, he died in prison. And Preacher's like, and the little girl?
And the look on Connie's face is priceless.
I know. She's like, she never forgave herself for being too afraid to get help. And he knows just from the look on her.
That's right. It's her.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And she's like, no child should have to grow up without a mother.
Yep. It's one of those sad moments where you cry a little.
Yeah. You know? And he's like, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let that happen to Christopher. So she's like protection mode.
Yeah. So now Preacher has someone he can rely on now.
Yeah.
He can
His eyes are even a little misty.
Yeah. He has a confidant now because he's been holding this thing himself.
He has been carrying this alone, and it's been so... He can't even tell Jack.
Right. Exactly. He hasn't told anybody. Yep. And now that Connie has put the pieces together,
he can now confide. He can talk about it. It will be so much better for both of them.
Yeah. He's got a compadre now.
So then he starts to tell the story of Paige. What happened, how her family tried to get her to leave him, all the history. She thought he would change. He just kept isolating her
and the camera just backs away
while he's telling the story.
Tells the story, yeah. And so now we're at Mel's house.
Yes. Stacy and Mel having dinner.
And Mel is cooking dinner.
She's like, so tell me about Jack. And she goes, oh, I don't know. He owns the bar. Like, she goes, oh, is that it? And she goes, yeah, we're just friends. She goes, did you hook up? And she looked at her. Come on. He's gorgeous. How could you not? If you did, I won't tell anybody. Okay, would you trust Stacy?
Oh, please.
Like, not as far as I can throw her.
And I can throw her pretty far.
Yeah.
With her skinny little self who can't breathe outside and one little run outside.
I know. And Mel's like, there's nothing to talk about. Like, she's going to deny it.
Yeah.
Or she's not going to acknowledge it.
Yeah, because telling anybody at this point, we know how that's goes.
But it's kind of written all over her face. And when she looks at him and when he looks at her, and Stacy's like, you did. I knew it. She goes, oh, you knew it? Right. She goes, yeah, today at the bar, the way he's looking at you. I mean, it's obvious. It's like, no, he's like that with everyone. I mean, he's just a really good guy. It's like, yeah. She's like, right. She has to, oh, God, this Stacy. Oh, I swear. God. I mean.
This conversation is just.
It's just wrong.
And not only this, it's getting from bad to worse.
Yeah, like Stacy just keeps digging herself this hole. She's like, would you ever consider remarrying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she's so nonchalant about it, like Jack or, you know, anyone else. And Mel's like, yeah, I don't know. She goes, and she's like, well, I'm sure you will. And when you do, whoever you marry will give you a ring.
And here we go back to the ring again.
And she's like, not letting this go. And Mel's just like, really? Like looking at her like, really? She goes, well, I mean, why not let Mimi's ring stay in the family? And Mel kind of gets offended. She's like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
I'm part of Mark's family. But that's the thing. The mother and Stacy, they don't accept her.
No, they don't.
And then she hits her. It's like a gut punch. Then she says, I know. It
goes from bad to worse.
But I'm going to have children.
Mm.
And Mel's like, she goes, and you'll have no one to pass it on to. Really?
Oh my God.
And then she says the most ridiculous thing. I'm not trying to be mean. Yeah, you kind of are.
Yes, you are.
She goes, I just want you to understand my point of view. Well, Mel gets a phone call or a text or something, and she's like, I'm sorry, I have to go. She's like, Mel, she goes, no. It's a work thing. You know, you stay. Finish eating. Okay, bye-bye. and she's out.
Wow.
I know. Like, really?
That
And she's gone.
that mm,
They've known each other probably 15 years, I think. They've been
mm,
friends for a long time. They have mutual people that they, were involved with over the years, and they've been friends for a very long time. And it's kind of funny how, you know, they get to work with people, which is it, and they're like really really close friends, and they're playing like this kind of animosity. It's probably
right.
fun for them to like
Yep.
act like this when they're not like this. So it's kind of
Yep.
interesting. But yeah, her and her sister have been really, really good friends with Alexander Brekovich for a long, long time. So it's kind of funny.
Ah, yes.
Tidbit, moving
Well,
on.
yep.
Gotta throw some tidbits every now and again.
That's okay.
Makes life interesting. Okay, so now we're back at Hope's house because, as you so eloquently have put it, Mel has to give the results even though she shouldn't have to. I know, but Doc's still busy. He's probably still with Charlie. She needs the results. So
I'm not even gonna touch this again.
I know, it's okay. Charmaine sees her at the door. She's not happy either, so it's okay. And she's like, "Where's Doc?" And he goes, "Well, he asked me to give you the results of your blood work." And the two of them, I mean, if looks could kill, they'd both be on the ground.
Oh, exactly. Because they both have that look of
dread.
Basically, yeah, dread. Neither one of them want to talk to the other one.
No,
So
neither one of them wants to have these conversations right now. They don't even want to see each other. They don't want to be in each other's presence. But Mel is going to be the professional. She's going to be cordial. She's not even going to be pleasant at this point. She's just going to be cordial. And so Charmaine's like, "Come in." And she's like, "Look, I don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. But this isn't about us, okay?" She just sets it straight right there. She's like, "Okay, so what's wrong with me now?" She goes, "Well, thankfully it's just a little bit of low blood sugar, compliments of your HG." And she goes, "What about my heart?" And she goes, "It's just part of the symptoms. It's treatable. You just got to measure your sugar levels. You're going to keep an eye on it, and if you feel, until you deliver, and eat small meals every 3 or 4 hours. And if you start feeling a little off, drink some juice." And then she brings her like some fresh squeezed, nectar juice or something. And Charmaine's like, "Yeah, okay." And then you hear a dog yapping. And Mel's like, "What the heck? Why is..." And Charmaine picks up this rag of a dog. And she's like, "Jack surprised me with him." And Mel's like, "Oh. We still haven't figured out a name yet." And she goes, "Oh, well, was it your birthday or something?" She goes, "No, I just think Jack felt guilty. He's not as round as much and with his buddies in town." And yeah, she's like, "Yeah, I'm sure he feels guilty." Okay, well, don't forget to drink your juice. And Mel tries to get out of there as fast as she can. Fortunately, that was short-lived.
Thank God.
Now we are at the dance class. Remember the group dance class that Muriel and Doc were going to do together? And apparently Muriel had spoken to the instructor and paired the two of them up together so that they could learn their dance moves together. And what did she say? Sorry, I'm going to back it up because I missed what she said. Come on. There it is. So she talked to the dance instructor and asked if they could be paired up together for the entire class. And Doc is like, "Well, I thought this was like a rotation type thing." Like, he wasn't thinking it's a dance class with her. It's a dance class like everybody. Like, they're all learning. It's not just her. And now, And she goes, "Well, normally it is, but, if you're really good friends with the instructor, like, special treatment, I guess." And he's like, "Okay, well, great." He's like, "Oh, okay." And then she also convinced the instructor to start with the salsa so they can heat things up. And Doc's like, and Muriel's like, "What?"
And who should show up but Hope? She looks pretty. She's in a lovely dress.
She does. She looks lovely.
She looks lovely.
And Doc's answer is, she's just probably trying something new." She's like, oh, hope I'm not crashing your party. And he's like, oh, no, not at all.
Mm.
And Muriel's like, well, it's such a shame. We already have partners. She's like, oh, don't worry. Hi, my name is Hope. She walks up to the instructor. It's like, oh, you look like you can handle it. And she grabs him as her partner. And then he starts giving out instructions, the right, the foot, the left foot, and everybody's following along. And Hope and Muriel keep shooting glances back and forth to each other, trying to outdo each other.
Outdance each other, yes.
Goodness. I mean, you can tell Muriel knows how to dance. I mean, Doc knows how to dance too. Remember from the Mingle?
Yes,
a bunch of people mentioned that he's a good dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So the instructor's kind of giving some comments and everything. Hope kind of looks like a mess. Like she's just flailing her arms and spinning and
there's a lot of spinning,
staring at him, and she's just all over the place. But everybody's clapping. The song is over, and okay, after one dance, does he really have to say this? It's just so lame. He's like, "Oh, Vernon, extraordinary." She's like, "Oh, thank you. Is it the rhythm, the style, the connectivity, your partnership, sublime?" Like, thank you. And then he says to Hope, "You have excellent skills, but your salsa's not a solo endeavor. A couple must work together in unity." And she's like, "Uh-huh. Thanks for the tip." And then they want to move on, and she's kind of like, "Done. I want to be out of here." And I think I don't know. She probably wound up leaving. I think she left.
I think she left
because she didn't get what she wanted out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're around the campfire, and it's all the guys.
The guys.
Yep, the guys are. I think some of them are staying in campers. Some of them are staying in tents. They're singing. One of the guys is strumming along, and they said they miss Preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had to work. They missed him on the trail, but that's okay because he'll be fresh for kayak in the morning, which is great. They're all going to go kayaking. And so they asked where they rode that day, and he goes, oh, Jack's like, I want to do Executioner, but the guys were like, no. And he goes, whatever happened to you guys? You used to be so fearless. And life happened, one of the guys says. He had a wedding ring. One of the guys mentions, he's like, you know who was fearless? Lonergan. And then he recalls a story of Lonergan, how he went home with him once. He talks about how the guy's just so nice and he's just such a cool guy and his family, and they went out riding, and he revs up to jump, and the guy's like, there is no way he was going to make this jump, but he hits it perfectly. It was like 40 feet in the air, and he made it, and it was awesome. And he landed on top of a chicken coop. And the guys are like, well, what happened? He goes, well, we had fried chicken for dinner. So it's nice that they had some fond memories of Lonergan since he's not there at that reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jack's looking very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
He can't revel in the joy of Lonergan because he feels responsible for Lonergan.
Yeah.
So you can tell that by the way
he's acting.
Reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the guys is like, I remember after he died, I went back to talk to his parents. And it was one of the hardest things that he had ever had to do was to speak to the family, about their son who had passed away. And Jack just looks like he wants to cry. Like he almost can't even handle.
Well, it looks like he wants the earth to swallow him up.
Oh, yeah. And he's like, does anyone else want a beer? Like he's just trying to numb the pain.
Yeah. He wants to get away from it all.
Oh, yeah. And drinking helps for him, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And
it numbs the pain.
Yeah.
And it makes him forget. So
it just looks like he wants to cry. So now we're at the little river. There's a little log across it, and Lizzie and Ricky are sitting there drinking whatever bottle of whatever Ricky brought. And they're talking a little bit about their families. And she's like, it's kind of nice that you don't have anybody bugging you about your curfew or whatever. And he goes, my mom died when I was a baby and my dad left when I was a baby. He didn't really have anybody. And she's like, oh, she's complaining about how awful her parents are, but she still has parents. He doesn't even have any. He has his grandmother. So she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry." And
sometimes,
he's like, "Oh, it's
yeah,
okay."
sometimes you need a little reality check
Yeah,
when you're,
exactly. Especially her.
especially, especially when you're in your head all the time.
And she
So,
said, "Well, at least there's one positive. You know, there's no one to be disappointed in you because that's all she feels like her parents are is disappointed in her."
hmm
And so he kind of chuckles at that and he's like, "Well, I guess.
that girl is trouble, as we said
Isn't
before.
she?" Yeah. So now she asks, "Do
Mhm.
you have a girlfriend?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Well, why not? You're kind of cute." And he was like, I don't know. I mean, she goes, "Well, there's a reason for everything." And he's like, "At school, I'm invisible. Like, nobody sees me. Nobody knows I'm there. Everyone looks right through me like I don't even exist." And she leans over and gives him a little kiss.
This is probably his first kiss ever.
Possibly. She's like, "I see you." Oh, and he's just like giddy.
Yep.
Like, "I'll steal
He,
more
he
wine for you if I have to. If that's going to get me a kiss." Mm-hmm. This is a very cute scene. So now we're back at Mel's cabin, and she's in the back, sort of backyard. There's a small, like a patio that overlooks the water. You walk out on it like a little deck. It might be like the boat ramp. It
yes.
might be a boat ramp, and she's just sitting there underneath a blanket with a lantern, sort of looking out onto the water. You can see lights on in the cabin, and Jack's walking up, and he's like, "Hey," and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, I was just on my way back to town and thought I'd say hi." And she's like, "Hi, hello." I mean, they're just so awkward. And she's like, "Do you want to sit?" And he's like, "Oh." She's like, "So where are your friends?" He goes, "Oh, everybody crashed out. It was a really big day. We were super busy." And she's like, "So did you have a good time?" And he's like, "Yeah." She looks at him like, "I don't believe you." And he's like, "Well, it just feels different this time." Like, and she's like, "Okay, is that a good thing or a bad thing?" And he's like, "I'm not sure. I don't know." And he's like, "I see Stacy's car is still here." It's like, "Oh, is that why you're out here?" And she's like, "Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not going in there. She's in there." And she's like, "She's still asking for my engagement ring." And he's like, "Oh, so what do you think you want to do?" And she's trying to like work it out in her head, but it's tough. She's like, "Before Mark died, they had a really rough year." And now that she kind of thinks back about it, she's starting to wonder if maybe it was more than just that year. Like maybe their problems and situations were a lot longer than a year. And she's like,
Well,
she's wondering if Mark had not passed away,
maybe things would have been different.
maybe things would have been different. And he's like, "Yeah, maybe you guys would have figured it out." And she's looking at him like,
Exactly.
"What?" Wait. And she's like, "Wait, this morning when I brought up giving back the ring, you told me to give it some thought." And he's like, "Well, yeah, I meant like think about it, like process it, don't get pressured into doing something you don't want to do, like think about it." And she thought he meant think about giving her back the ring. And then he gets so introspective. He's like, "You shouldn't give it up if you feel like you're not ready to part with it. Just because you give it up or don't give it up, that doesn't mean that you're over him. It's like they're two separate things." And he
Yep.
reminds her that grief doesn't come at you straight ahead, that sometimes it's circular, which I'm sure the two of them understand that probably better than anybody, that sometimes it hits when you least expect it. And
Yep.
she's like, I can't. She doesn't know if she can give up the ring. She doesn't know if she can bring herself. And he's like, "Okay, then don't. Like, keep it. Like, you got to do what's best for you."
Yeah.
He's like, "It's yours. I mean, he gave it to you, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like now really starting to think about it in a different way. And she's like, "Thanks." See, this is the other time where I feel like once they slept together, it changed things.
hmm
And then this break, because of circumstances, have given them a chance to find a friendship instead of just being physical. Because clearly that night was physical. there was no
Oh,
there was no
yeah.
two ways
That
about it. It's like they got it out of their system, and now
exactly.
they're just like kind of almost establishing a friendship
Yeah.
and really being there for each other in ways that they needed at this moment in this time because of what they're going through. She's got a dead husband and a sister with a ring, and he's got, the army and the PTSD and all of this stuff.
And the guilt of Lonergan.
The guilt of Lonergan, all of that. And it's like nobody can really relate to their grief and their pain like each other seem to be able to on some level. And it's like that's what's going to get them through it. And so she tells him, you're a really good friend. You know that? And he's almost like, oh, of course, the looks and the stares. He can't help it. But he can't respond to it. He doesn't know what to say. It is what it is. He's trying to be a friend. She's trying to be a friend. So Mel comes back into the cabin, and what is Stacy doing?
He's packing.
She is packing. She is not happy. She says, I heard you talking to your friend, and you're not going to give me the ring back. It's like, she goes, look, I loved your brother more than anything in the world. And even if I find love again, she's like, if you find love again, Mark's barely dead a year, and you're here in the woods sleeping with some bartender. She goes, look, the ring symbolizes the love that we had for each other. It's important to me today as it was the day he put it on my finger. And I'm sorry you don't understand. And Stacy is just like, I'm not having it. She goes, Mark would have wanted me to have it. He would have wanted it to stay in our family. And she's like, you and I know that that's not true. She goes, look, after Mark gave it to me, he told me that you threw a fit.
She was now family.
Yep. And that it was okay because he asked Mimi. He asked if it was okay. And she said, absolutely, it's fine. And Stacy got pissed.
And she stormed out because Mel called her on her crap.
Yep.
And so now, before she was hoping
she
that
thought she had the upper hand.
Exactly. And she didn't know that conversation happened between Mark and her. So now she realizes that Mark informed her. So she has no more cards to play.
Yep.
No more cards to play.
So she packed up her toys and went home.
Exactly.
Like every other spoiled child in the world, right?
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So now we're at the bar, and Ricky is trying to return the half-used bottle of liquor.
Now, it's not like they were using glasses.
Exactly. I'm like, my question is, why even bother to bring it back?
Yeah.
It's just like,
why would you do that? They were drinking out of the bottle.
Exactly.
Ricky, you're smarter than that. And Jack calls him on it because he catches him, and he was like, hi. He goes, did you take that bottle from the bar? And he was like, well, I thought you'd be, like, he's trying to come up with something. He goes, I'll pay for it. And he goes, okay, go home. Please just let me explain. And he's like, go home, Ricky, and leave your car because he doesn't want him driving. He's still going to be his mentor, big brother, dad figure, and he'll deal with him later.
Yeah, because right now he's pissed.
He's pissed too much right now.
Yeah, because he's slightly disappointed in him. Let's just
because Ricky is making all kinds of bad moves.
But yeah.
Bad decisions, bad directions.
So now we have Jack sitting in his office, and he's thinking. He's not asleep anymore.
No, he's thinking
fully
about
awake.
Lonergan.
He's thinking about Lonergan, and the music is playing in the background, which is great.
Yeah, lots of good music. And he's drinking again.
How he felt. Now it's not beer. This is now hard.
Oh no, this is probably whiskey or something, tequila or something. So he picks up the phone. And he dials a number.
And then nobody's there.
He's looking for Mr. Lonergan. And he's like, hi, my name is Jack Sheridan. I was Christopher's first sergeant. Look, I know this is long overdue, but I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. As first sergeant, it's my responsibility to make sure that my platoon comes back in one piece. And I failed. Christopher was a good soldier. And I told him everything would be okay, and it wasn't. And he just looks like he wants to cry, and he deserved better. And he is like, I hope that one day you'll find it in your heart to forgive me for not bringing your son home to you, which is probably one of the hardest things he's ever had to say. And he goes, well, I'm Tim Lonergan, Chris's brother. I appreciate you reaching out, but my parents are deceased, which just... He says, "I'm sorry." And he literally cries and drops the phone.
Cries. Yeah.
Because that means he's too late.
Yeah.
He never got to do
tell
this
them.
when it should have been
Yeah.
done right after it happened.
So, what do you estimate how long it's been since he's been out of the mill?
Okay. I'm going to say 7 to 10 years. Only
Okay.
because they make comments that he's had the bar 7 years.
Okay.
And it took him a good 6 months to a year to renovate it. Because they always say he's been here for 7 years. It's always been a 7-year thing. So I'm saying like 8 to 10 years this happened.
Okay.
And I feel like that Brady was only served the last tour with them and was probably 20.
Yeah, he was, as they like to say,
22, 23. Him and Lonergan were probably buddies and the same age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas Preacher's older and the other guys were older.
They're older, yeah.
And I think they even, and I don't know if it was the books or the show that said that Jack went on he did 5 tours or something. I think Preacher did a little bit less. Some of the other guys I don't know, but I think maybe Lonergan and Brady did less. That may have been their first tour. So yeah, I'm gonna say 10 years. It's got 8 to 10 years. So you figure because he was in the service for 20 years, and he went in as soon as he turned 18.
18, yeah.
So that puts him at 38. And if it's, say, 8 more years, that puts him at 45-ish. Yeah. Wow. Trying to age people it's difficult because, we know when things happen, but we have to
we have no time frame in this universe. So
yeah, it's a little challenging sometimes. So he's very upset and he's crying because now he knows that he had the opportunity if he would have gone to speak with them soon after all of it happened, but he just wasn't ready. He couldn't do it.
Just like his friend did.
Yeah.
When Lonergan had first died.
Yeah.
And it ends there.
And that's it. That's the episode.
And that is the episode. Till next time, folks.
Till next time. So I have a feeling that this pain he's going through, it's gonna take a minute. He's gonna have to fight some more demons. The next episode is called Out of the Past. So we've got Mel. She's almost on the anniversary of her husband's death. And Jack is dealing with Lonergan. I mean, there's a lot of history that we're gonna dig up next time around.
Yes, we are.
So I guess we will speak to you next time. We will be back for another fun episode of the Virgin River Cafe Rewatch podcast. See you next time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.